Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and we have another awesome Jurassic World Dominion figure here to take a look at, and this is the very first time I've had the pleasure of checking out the Sound Surge figures, or one of them as far as this review goes. You can see, even though it's crooked and sideways, if we actually lift it up the right way, you can see that we have, again, the Jurassic World Dominion logo, but Tyrannosaurus Rex, so we've got ourselves the Sound Surge Rexy, and you can see that as far as the figure goes, it looks pretty nice in there. We've got that kind of window-like look, and there's also an area up here that you can actually push through to hear some of the noises. Again, as far as the box art goes, we've got the Jurassic World logo over there, and then here on the back, it's a little crooked currently, but you can see we have the T-Rex as well as the Giganotosaurus, which is the other figure in the line. On the back here, you can see we have the T-Rex and then the Giganotosaurus, which is the other in the line. There is also a Carnotaurus and actually a Baryonyx. I don't think the Baryonyx is around anymore, unfortunately. I really wanted to get a hold of these figures the first time they were released, but they never actually came to the United States to my knowledge, so I never had the opportunity to do that, but now they have, and again, the only three that I'm able to get a hold of would be the Giganotosaurus, the T-Rex, and the Carnotaurus. But I'm really interested in checking this figure out because I've been wanting to get a hold of one for a very long time, so let's go ahead, pop it out of the box, and do just that. So here is our Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Sound Surge version, and I'm really intrigued to see that this looks like a repainted version. I actually thought this was going to be a light brown like the older one was. I had no idea that the newer version was repainted kind of in the Dominion colors, or at least as far as I can tell. Again, I don't have the original release, so I can't say for sure, but from what I've seen, I thought the original one was a bit of a lighter brown, whereas this one clearly is a darker brown. Definitely not the best color added to it. I mean, it looks, decent as far as what we have in the first half kind of the dinosaur, but the second half has just nothing to it at all. We basically just have the dark brown that is the primary body color. The figure still looks really cool. The sculpt is really quite nice, and of course we have super large feet. What this is, in my opinion, is like the equivalent of a basic figure with a little bit more extra articulation and a sound feature. That's kind of the way I look at this. But anyway, let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at this very cool Tyrannosaurus figure. So starting up here at the head sculpt, when it comes to a Mattel Tyrannosaurus Rex, I'd say it looks pretty much just like all of the others. The detailing looks pretty nice. You've got some pretty appealing looking skin texture, scale detail throughout. Really quite nice looking kind of scoots and stuff through the course of the upper part of the head, osteoderms and things like that. Again, very reminiscent to your normal everyday style Tyrannosaurus from Mattel. You've got a really nicely painted eye with a yellow. The pupil appears to be just the dark gray that we have there, kind of bordering around it, but it looks pretty nice. Again, that works pretty nicely for the pupil. Sometimes we get pupils that are like lighter tones of color and just look terrible, but I feel like that would be a complete travesty for a Tyrannosaurus, so Mattel did do a good job as far as that goes. For the majority of the face color-wise, we basically just have the dark brown of the body, and then a very nice dark gray that kind of runs down here along the palate into the snout, and then around the eye area, and then down into the side of the face. We also have coloration for the teeth. You can see they are painted with an off-white. They do kind of sport a little bit of a glossy look, but one thing that is a downside, you can see the lower jaw has no coloration, no paint to the teeth at all, which, once you open the mouth, that just looks horrendous because it's only half painted. You have a really nicely sculpted tongue and everything on the inside of the mouth, but yet again, no actual paintwork applied to it, just basically the brown that we have for the figure itself. Again, this is all kind of that basic figure with sound and a little extra articulation that I was talking about earlier, because again, we have the most basic paintwork possible on the figure. As you move back here into the neck, you start to see some very dark stripes picking up, some really nice dark gray stripes, and I think the figure would have looked really nice and actually really quite reminiscent to what Rexy looks like at times if that coloration had run the entire course of the figure. But as you can see here, once we get past the early part of the back, like not long after the shoulder blades, it actually completely disappears, and we have nothing but the dark brown, which is a really big downside. But again, even with basic figures, usually I think have a little more paintwork than that. I'm also not a big fan of the jawline here, the articulated jaw and where it connects. Like, that's really ugly, but at least we do have the ability to articulate the jaw, which is actually pretty fun. But as you move down, again, you can see that the detailing and everything looks really quite nice. You have the typical scars and stuff you usually see on the Tyrannosaurs from Mattel. Really nice classic Mattel Tyrannosaur arm sculpt, nice muscle definition. No paint on the nails, but again, with such a basic paint job, I didn't expect there to be. You can see some beautiful skin folds, skin wrinkles and stuff, especially as you get further back here closer to the leg. Some more fantastic texturing through the entire figure. You do have a button up here on the top to activate the action feature. Well, it's not really an action feature, the sound aspect of the figure. As per usual, we have some beautiful muscle definition moving down the course of the leg. You've also got the kneecap in the front, and then you have a really nice foot sculpt with some scoots down the toes. Of course, being a Mattel figure, the foot sculpt is definitely a bit larger than it needs to be, but I feel like it's not horribly distracting or anything. Again, with all of the Mattel Tyrannosaurs having larger feet like this, we're kind of used to it at this point. You can see more scars as you lead back here closer to the tail, and then leading out into the tail. I don't know if I actually have it placed correctly. It's actually a little hard to tell at times. There we go. I think I've got it now. So you could see again, actually that definitely makes sense because we've got these skin wrinkles here in the lower part of the tail that kind of line up with the tail really nicely. And the detailing looks good. You have some more scars leading out into the tail, a nice curve in the tail. I think the tail's a bit too short, as per usual, when it comes to many different Mattel figures, but it's not horribly distracting. This side, though, you can see, first of all, we've got a lot of scars in the face on this side, like a ton. But the paintwork looks pretty nice and precise over here, just like we saw on the initial side, so that's definitely a plus. The eye, yet again, if it would focus on it, the eye, yet again, is pretty nicely painted, nicely placed. No real sloppiness. More scars right here, really quite large scars. I don't remember any of the other Mattel figures having scars that were quite so insanely large and noticeable, but maybe they did and I just don't recall. It's been a little while since I reviewed one of these older sculpts as far as the Mattel Tyrannosaurs go, but again, the detailing looks great. More scars as you move down. We again have that nice dark gray striping, but of course it immediately tapers off. You do have this open area here on the side for the sound to escape from, and then you also have a battery compartment here on the side. And although some companies do this when you have a figure that you don't really have room for the battery compartment on the underside, I feel like they definitely could have applied that area to the underside of the Rex. I feel like even though it's pretty thin, there was probably enough room to put that down there, but unfortunately it is here on the side, and that is absolutely an eyesore. Probably one of the worst Mattel eyesores that I think I've ever seen when it comes to their figures. But again, these are just that kind of basic figure style, so it is what it is, I guess. It's not part of their mainline figures. Again, the leg sculpt over here looks pretty nice, just like we had seen on the initial side. We've got to turn that foot a little bit. And again, we don't have any type of nail paint or anything. You do have dew claws and everything sculpted out, just no actual nail paint. They kind of have a little bit of a glossy look, so they sort of look shiny, which is, nice to see, but at the same time, it would have been nicer to have actual nail paint, but being basic, we don't have that. And then you can see as you lead back out into the tail, again, it's kind of like your standard Mattel Jurassic World Tyrannosaurus tail. The detailing on the underside also looks really quite nice. Beautiful detailing even to the undersides of the feet. Really nice detail through the course of the stomach, like as far as the skin texture and everything goes. You can see more skin wrinkles and everything. I really wish Mattel would have actually gotten the underside of the Tyrannosaurus correctly with the kind of larger scales you see in the chest leading down into the stomach region. Something that is really a trademark, I would say, of the Jurassic Tyrannosaurs, and unfortunately none of them ever seem to have that. Hopefully the Hammond collection version that is coming will, but even with a lot of eyesores and stuff on the figure, not really the best paint job or anything like that, I'm actually pretty happy with it because it's cool to have a Tyrannosaur that's like this. It's not super huge, not super small. It's the first time, to my recollection, that we've had a Tyrannosaur that's like this size range from Mattel, so it is still a pretty darn fun figure overall. As far as the sound goes for the Rex, pretty much your standard Mattel Tyrannosaurus sound effects, but they're pretty nice. They're always cool when they're included on one of these figures. As far as the articulation goes on the Rex, you can see again we do have the articulated jaw, which works really nicely, and you can get a really wide open mouth on this. You also have arm articulation, forward and back, works really nicely. Leg articulation, forward and back. It doesn't seem like it goes out away from the body. Maybe a little bit, but not much. You also have ankle swivels here, so you can articulate the ankles. And then tail articulation can go up, down, left, right, as well as swivel. And that's really about it as far as the articulation goes. Not too much, but definitely enough that it gives you some fun possibilities as far as playability and posing your figure. As far as a size goes, you're looking at about 14¼ inches in length, or around the 36, approaching 36.5 centimeters. So even being fairly small for a Mattel Rex, it has a decent size to it. And then height-wise, just shy of 5¼ inches, or right around 13.5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to the Tyrannosaurus Rex from the Sound Surge line. And you can definitely see again that the figure isn't super huge, but it's not super small. Especially when it comes to a Mattel Tyrannosaur, you can see that it definitely is a lot smaller than your average Tyrannosaur. Even the Extreme Chompin' Rex is quite a bit larger. But for another size comparison, there is the newer Extreme Damage Tyrannosaurus Rex next to our Sound Surge version, definitely showing you again that when it comes to a Mattel Tyrannosaurus, it is quite a bit smaller, as the Extreme Damage, or, Extreme Chompin', because they're the same style sculpt, is probably one of the smaller Tyrannosaurs as far as the Mattel line goes, and you can see that the Sound Surge version is quite a bit smaller. Then you've got the epic Roarin' Tyrannosaurus Rex from Mattel next to the Sound Surge version, and the Sound Surge version actually might look a little bit bigger than it actually is, because it's a little bit further forward, and there you can see as it's under the epic Roarin' T-Rex, you could definitely see again a drastic size difference between the two. And then for another size comparison, here is the Roar Attack version of Bumpy the Ankylosaurus next to the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus. And you can see again that it's not much larger than a Roar Attack figure. And then for one final comparison, we have a Mattel Velociraptor, the newer Extreme Damage version of the Mattel Velociraptor, just to again give you a rough idea of the size of this new Rex. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Dominion version of the Sound Surge Tyrannosaurus Rex definitely is not your best Mattel Tyrannosaurus to date, that is for sure. It's not even close, and it's also not really all that great of a figure. Like, it's not bad, and I enjoy it just because it's fun to have a T-Rex that's like this, that's a little bit smaller, but still really highly detailed and sporting that classic Mattel Rexy type of a look. But the fact that, again, it's got a lot of eyesores to it, like the really bad paint application. Like, the paint apps are horrible on this, because you have a really nice start. If you keep the mouth closed and you look at the figure from the head back to like the shoulder area, it looks pretty nice. Not great, because we don't have any alternate tones for the lower jaw or any coloration running along the underside, but it still looks pretty good because it looks like we have the painted teeth. We've got some variations of browns and dark grays, nicely painted eyes. We have that kind of striping effect running along the back of the neck like you would expect to see on a Rexy figure. However, once you open the mouth, you see the fact that the tongue isn't painted, the lower jaw doesn't have any paint on the teeth, and then as you move along the figure, you see that the paintwork ends very abruptly there as far as that, darker gray in the back, and you don't have any coloration on the underside, no painted nails. So the coloration, the paintwork in general is really bad on the figure. The sculpt is incredibly highly detailed, as you always find when it comes to a Mattel Tyrannosaurus. So detail-wise, there is no downside because the detail on this is fantastic. We have a lot of scars throughout, maybe a little too many, but it, gives you that kind of veteran Tyrannosaurus type of a look to our Rexy figure. But again, the feet are a little bit larger and the tail's a little bit too short, but that's something that's very common with the Mattel line. However, once you look at the left side of the figure, again, you have that open area for the sound to escape from. You also have the battery compartment, and those areas are definitely an eyesore and not something we are used to when it comes to Mattel figures. I was pretty shocked when I initially saw those aspects to these figures, but from one side it looks really quite nice, I think. So as a whole, if you're, full of Tyrannosaurs from Mattel already, I would say skip this one because it's not a must-have, but if you're looking for a smaller version of a Mattel Tyrannosaurus, this is definitely a really cool version to pick up if you are okay with the really bad paint apps. Regardless, if you are interested in this, I will include a link in the description to where you can purchase this on BigBadToyStore.com. So make sure you check that link, head on over there, grab yourself one of these Sound Surge Tyrannosaurs if you would like, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.